Okay, now we will install on a chain link fence the plastic optical fiber with LiteFENCE. It's not so difficult to install the system, but you have to follow the right step in the right order. If you don't do it, you have the risk to increase the attenuation, so the system cannot work correctly. The first thing you have to do is to decide the security level that you want to choose. If you want just anti-climbing solution, if you want anti-climbing and anti-lifting, or if you want to detect also a breach in the fence. So you will have to decide how many fiber you want to put in the fence. If you just want the climbing solution, you will put just one fiber on the top of the fence. If you want to detect the climbing on the fence or the lifting, you have to use two fibers. If you want to detect a breach in the fiber, the breach in the fence, you have to increase the number of fibers. So you have to put, for example, 4 fibers, 3 fibers in the lower part and 1 fiber in the upper part. Now we will install 4 fibers just to have a demo. The fence is a chain link fence of 10 meters, so it's not the correct distance, but just to have a demo. We will install 4 fibers in the fence in order to have the maximum security. We will install every 5 meters the bolts. Normally in the installation we suggest to install the bolts each 10 meters. You know, the fence is 10 meters, we decided to increase the number of the bolts. We will install the bolts at 30 centimeters from the ground, 60 centimeters, 1 meter and 1.5 meter. We will pass the fiber also into the post where you don't have bolts, drilling the post, and then we will connect the fiber to the analyzer. We will put the analyzer in the power meter mode, and then just after putting the analyzer in the power meter mode, we will insert the fiber into the bolts and we'll put cable ties. So remember that we have 3 steps to respect. The first step is to attach all the bolts to the post. The second step is to put the fiber in the fence, and after these 2 steps you have the third step. So you put the LiteFENCE, the analyzer, in the power meter mode, and just after then you put the bolts. In this way you will see if you are putting the bolts correctly or not. If you don't put the bolts correctly, you will increase attenuation. Too much attenuation, the LiteFENCE will warn you, for example, with some message like link too long, or will not be able to recognize the light, and so to work correctly. So this is the fiber. As I say, the first thing is to attach the bolt. So the best way is to take a meter and a marker. So I say 30 centimeters from the ground, 60, 1 meter and 1.5. So in the first bolt you sign. And you have to sign also the post in the middle. Okay, now that we have marked all the posts to put the bolts and the post to drill it, we will fix the bolts. It's not mandatory to drill also the post to pass the fiber in, but it's suggested because it will increase the attenuation. The bolt, it's composed of two parts. The first part is attached on the fence. In the box you will also see a self-drilling screw you have to insert, and then you have to fix in the bolt. You have to put one bolt each side. Okay, let's move to the other post. And the last one. Okay. As I said, it's not mandatory to drill also the post, but you will see you will not need out of time, and it's very suggested to increase attenuation. Okay. So now we have put all the bolts and we have drilled all the posts. We have to... Okay. Now we have installed all the bolts in the post, and we drill all the posts. We have to install the fiber. We suggest you pass the fiber going in and out at 50 centimeters from the post, then you re-enter at 50 centimeters and you go. if you feel tension in the fiber, you can go ahead and check. For example, you can have some kinkle like this that have frictions. So you help the fiber to come. In this case, we have a 10-meter fence, so you will need 40 meters of fiber. All our cables have the meter indication on the cable, so you can read and you can pull here 40 meters. You can also have less distance to going in and out to pass in the fence, and then using a coupler to join the two fibers.
Mucchio qua.
Sì, grazie, aiutami a fare la prima.
Stiamo stressando mica male.
Okay, now we have 40 meters on the ground and we can pass the fiber in the fence.
Tira ancora? Ok.
Okay.
Stop.
Okay, the fiber is sewn into the fence. Before to connect the bolts and the cable ties, we have to make the connector, power the system, and then checking when we will install the bolts. So we pass the fiber into the cable gland. And then we take the connectorization kit. Inside the connectorization kit you have a cutter for the fiber, a wire stripper, a crimping tool, the sandpaper, a hook, and the connectors. Let's take the fiber. We use the cutter or normal scissors to cut them to the right distance, and then we use the wire stripper. You have to choose the dimension more than 1 millimeter because the fiber inside is 1 millimeter. You remove the jacket about 1 centimeter. Then you take the connectors and the protection boot. First of all, you insert the protection boot. Then you insert the connector. Take the crimping tool and you use the 122 hole. You crimp you remove the fiber, leaving just about 1 millimeter. If you put the cutter in the contrary, you will have 1 millimeter. You insert the boot and you can feel the fiber. Then you pass the fiber on the sandpaper to polish. When it's done, you can touch with the finger. If it's plate, the connector is done. You make the second. If possible, the better way is to make a 8. You touch with the finger. If you don't feel the fiber, the connector is done. Now let's power the system. We insert the first fiber in the connector with the LED. On the other connector you will see the light, because plastic optical fiber transmit light and not electricity. You insert the connector in the receiver. In 10 seconds the system will be ready to detect. The installation is not finished, but just to show that the system will be automatically ready with no setting and no computer. The light is green and the system is ready to detect the climbing. For example, if you bend the fiber like this, you will trigger the alarm. But now it's important to set the system in the power meter mode before to install the bolts. You have to press the down key and then press reset. When you see dashed lines, the power meter function is activated. The value is 6 dB. Each meter of fiber is about 0.1 dB. In this case we have about 50 meters of fiber, so about 5 dB. So the installation and the power that you see here, the number of dB, have to be very similar to the meter that you have installed multiplied per 0.1. So like in this case. If you see another value, an increased value, maybe you have some bad bendings during the installation of the fiber. Now we have to start inserting the bolts. You start from one point, taking the fiber. So the right way to install the bolts is to have the connector in line. If the connector is not installed correctly, you can turn it. You have to insert the fiber like this, and then you help the fiber entering also with the end. And the end of the connection, the fiber have to be in line, like this. Each time that you make a connector, you have to check attenuation. The attenuation now is 6.27, so about 0.1 dB more. Each bolt you put, you will increase attenuation. If the value is no more than 0.2 dB, the bolt is installed correctly. If you see a higher attenuation, for example 1 dB increase, the bolt is not installed correctly, so you have to remove and you have to insert it again. If you want to remove the bolts, you can make it with a screwdriver. Here on the top you see a hole, you put the screwdriver into the hole, you help the fiber exiting like this, and then you push. You check the fiber if it's not damaged. If you see some little scratch, it's not a problem. So we insert again the bolt. Okay. As you see, we have no increase in attenuation. Let's go to the second pass and let's install a second bolt, not so correctly, just to see the attenuation increasing. We are on the second bolt. We take, and for example, a very common way of install the connector badly, it's on the other side. So instead of installing like this, you install like this. You install the connector, and you see that the connector is not inserted until the end, and the fiber have bendings here. Let's go and see the attenuation of the fiber. You have an increase of more than 3 dBs. 3 dBs is like 30 meters of fiber. So this is a very, very bad installation of the bolts. I realize that it's not inserted correctly because I have the power meter function. If I install the fiber like this in all the bolts, at the end I will have the fiber damaged and I have to redone all the job. So let's remove the job, let's remove the bolt, and let's put. Okay, let's install the bolt in the right way. The fiber have to have a small tension, not high tension, but just a small one. You don't have to see bends like this on the fiber. So you insert the part of the bolt, then you enter it. Each time that you put a bolt, even you are an expert, you have to check the attenuation if it's good. In this case, the fiber is in line. if the connector is not installed correctly, like for example in this way, you will see the fiber is not inserted correctly. So you take the screwdriver and you put it like in a line, like this. Let's go and check attenuation each time. .23. So we have a small increase of attenuation. We take the bolt, give a small tension in the fiber, and then we insert the bolt. When the fiber have to make a change and go back, you don't need to have a bad angle here. You have to consider that here the fiber have tension, so it's sensitive to bending. Here you have no tension, so it's almost insensitive. You can leave more fiber with no problem. You leave a gentle, not sharp curve, and then you put another bolt. Let's go and check attenuation again. Each time that you put a bolt, you have to check attenuation. We have inserted 2 bolts and we have less than 0.1 dB. The value that we consider in our installation is 0.2. So you have margin if you install the fiber correctly, if you install the bolts correctly. Okay, let's continue installing the bolts. In this case, as you can see, the bolts is not installed correctly. So just move it to have it in line. Then, like in other case, we take the fiber, we make a small tension on the fiber, and then we insert the bolt. Each time that you put the bolt, you have to check attenuation. So, less than 0.1 dB. Also in this case, less than 0.1. Even if you are an expert installer, please check each time the attenuation. .45. .48, less than 0.1. I see an increase of attenuation more than 0.1. So the connector is not installed correctly. So let's check. It seems installed correctly, but I had an increase of attenuation. So let's put it again. Let's check attenuation. The attenuation is still high. So we have to check what is the problem in the installation. And look at this, we have a kinkhole in the fiber. So with the power meter you can check if you have installation problem. If you don't have the power meter connected, we had an increase of 3 dB of attenuation. So let's remove it. And let's install again. Now it's 6.5. So the attenuation, the increase of attenuation is good, it's 0.1 dB. If you install, for example, 10 volts and then you check, you don't realize where is the problem and you have to start again. Here I don't have to make a sharp angle like this, and I have to have the connector in the inline position. If I have a part of the fence that is very near to the bolt and make bad bendings like this, you can move the fence in order to have the fiber free to move and without bendings. Let's check. .9 and the last bolt. The result is 7 dB. So the increase of attenuation, in this case 4, 8, 12 volts, the sum was less than 1 dB. So the attenuation of each volt is usually less than 0.1. Now the fiber is connected with the bolt to the fence. We will install cable ties. Cable ties fixing have no increase of attenuation usually. So the last thing that we have to do now is to put cable ties on the fence. Putting cable ties and no increase of attenuation. This is the goal. Now we have 7 dB. So let's put a cable tie. You just attach the fiber to the fence and then you put. You don't need to have very high pulling because you just need to attach the fiber, but the cable ties have no sensitivity reason. You just attach the fiber to the fence and don't have a moving one. So you don't have to tie too much. Let's see the attenuation, 7.01, so no increase of attenuation. If we don't install correctly, for example, if we install like this, you have sharp angles. In this case we will see an increase of attenuation. So let's see, for example, we have 0.3 dB of attenuation more. So take care putting cable ties. Let's remove this one. We remove the cable ties and the attenuation, it's okay now. If you detect some problem during installation, now you will have no increased attenuation in the future. If you detect after 2 weeks with temperature cycles hot and cold, maybe the fiber will be stressed and will not have the same attenuation. Usually we put just one cable tie in the middle. You don't need more because you need the cable ties just to fix the fiber to the fence. Usually this work needs a two-man team. One is putting cable ties and is putting bolts, and the other one is checking attenuation to see if everything is covered. If you are alone, don't remember to check always the attenuation. Four cable ties, 7 dB. Four cable ties, 0 dB. Other 4 cable ties and no increase of attenuation. Okay, we installed all the cable ties. Let's check the attenuation. It's everything is correct. So almost no increase of attenuation. The total budget of the system, this number have not exceed 30 dB. If this number is more than 30 dB, the installation it's not correct, so can have problem. Now, the sensitivity of the system is at maximum. We usually suggest to leave the sensitivity on the maximum because the system is very false alarms free due to the technology that detect bending and not vibration like a microphonic cable. But if it's very windy place or you can have some not correct alarms, for example if you have bigger dogs or something similar, you can decrease it. To exit from the power meter mode, you have to press reset again. Now you wait 10 seconds, and when the LED will be green, the system will be ready to detect the climbing. So now the system is ready. Let's see, for example, if I try to enter in the area climbing. If I try to climb, I will move the fence and the alarm will be triggered. If I just have vibrations like wind, no alarm, because the system is not sensible to vibration. It's sensible just to cut, to climbing, to movement on the fiber. If you try to enter from the bottom, you will have the same criteria, the same working principle, operating principle. If you move the two fiber like this, you will trigger the alarm. So, let's repeat for the last time the important step. The first step is to check where you want to put the fiber and install the bolts and drill the post to insert the fiber in. The second is to pass the fiber. Then the important point is to make the connector on the fiber to power the analyzer, connect the fiber to the analyzer, and then set the analyzer in the power meter mode. Just after the power meter mode, you install the bolts, you install cable ties, and in this case you will have no increase of attenuation, you will have a perfect installation. The fiber and the system work even if the tension of the fiber is not perfect, and you can see. So if you try to make some movement, some climbing, and at the end you will see that the fiber is not perfect, it's not a big problem. If you want to have more tension, you can add, for example, also in a couple of points, another 2 cable ties. Just like this. The fence have not been rigid, have not been new. Even in this case, you see the fence. It's not very tight, but the system don't trigger any type of false alarms. And if you try to climb, you will immediately detect